Hi, everyone. Today, we're sharing another art podcast we think you'll love. Who Arted is an art history podcast that was started by an elementary school art teacher. It's great for listeners of all ages who want to learn the fun facts and interesting stories that make up art history. Each episode tells the story of a different artist and artwork. You'll learn about artists you've probably heard of, like Leonardo da Vinci and Georgia O'Keeffe, along with lesser known artists working in everything from video game design to nail art. This week, we're sharing a listener favorite, an episode on King Tut's tomb. King Tut, short for Tutankhamun, was an Egyptian pharaoh who came to rule when he was only 9 years old. Can you imagine what it would be like to be in charge of the entire Egyptian empire at that age? His reign wasn't very long, a little over 10 years, but he is so famous today mostly because of his tomb. This episode is both about the boy king's rule and the treasures found in his tomb. I hope you enjoy.
Feel like who Art Ed?
We'll try to slice it.
Who Art Ed? Mr. Wood Art Ed me.
Good. Either way, it's ambiguous. It works on so many levels.
I know.
That's off to a great start.
Welcome to Who Arted Weekly Art History for All Ages. I'm your host, Kyle Wood, and today we're digging into King Tut's tomb. On November 26th, 1922, Howard Carter prepared to enter the tomb of a little-known pharaoh. Nobody had set foot inside the space for over 3,000 years, but as Carter held up his candle, his partner, Lord Carnarvon, who had financed the expedition, called out asking if he saw anything. Carter responded, "Yes, wonderful things." King Tutankhamun, often referred to as King Tut, ascended to the throne at the tender age of 9 during the 18th dynasty of the New Kingdom in Egypt, around 1332 BCE. Workers hastily completed his tomb as the boy king appeared to have died unexpectedly when he was just a teenager. While there are numerous theories as to how he passed, I am inclined to believe those who say he likely died from malaria or an infection. There were theories that he died in a chariot crash because of the chariots left in his tomb, along with numerous broken bones in the skeleton. However, DNA analysis indicated that Tutankhamun had a severe clubbed foot and other maladies likely stemming from the verticality of his family tree. Tutankhamun was physically frail, likely in a great deal of pain during his short life, and would not have been capable of riding chariots. The contents of the tomb also indicate Tut's disability. He was buried with 130 canes and walking sticks to aid him in getting around in the afterlife. Now, as a ruler, King Tut really was not all that remarkable. Probably his greatest achievement was restoring traditional religious practices. His predecessor, Akhenaten, also King Tut's father, I guess Tutankhamun's initial name was Tutankhaten, but he changed it as he took the throne as a sort of a signifier that he was getting away from his allegiance to his father, who was considered to be sort of a heretical king, and sort of symbolically getting back towards the old religions. Akhenaten had undergone some drastic religious reforms, pushing everyone to worship Aten, the sun disk, as the primary god. Tutankhamun restored the polytheistic tradition, bringing back the priests and the temples that had been out of favor during that previous administration. He also moved the capital back to Thebes. He supported the arts and pushed to improve the economy, revitalizing trade networks that had suffered under Akhenaten. The thing is, while all of this sounds like he was restoring Egypt to normalcy after the radical reign of Akhenaten, he was still Akhenaten's son, so people associated the two of them together. He was likely just going along with his advisors' plans. Remember, Tutankhamun was only 9 years old when he took the throne, so people like Nefertiti were likely just pulling the strings. When Tutankhamun died young, he left no children as heirs. Military strongmen came in to grab power, and the pharaoh Hornheb worked to erase Tut and Akhenaten from history. Hornheb actually continued Tut's reforms and then took over Tut's monuments, carving his own name over Tut's wherever he could. Ironically, King Tutankhamun became a household name in the 20th century because he was almost entirely forgotten 3,000 years ago. Because Tutankhamun wasn't spoken of and essentially erased from history so shortly after his death, he was quickly forgotten by most Egyptians, including would-be looters. As a result, his was the most fully intact tomb to be excavated in the 20th century. There were about 5,000 treasures in the tomb when Howard Carter and his team came in. It actually took them about a decade just to catalog and carefully remove everything. Now, from the looks of things, while Carter's team was very careful and meticulous removing everything, the ancient Egyptians had to rush the job as they filled the space. The stone sarcophagus, for example, has some unfinished details. Workers painted on some jewelry pieces that would normally have been carved. The lid was granite, but the base was quartzite. Archaeologists say that something must have happened to the original quartzite lid, and they simply made do with what they had on hand. A granite lid was carved and painted to look like quartzite, but repair work also indicates that the granite cracked during the rushed carving process. Things breaking and being